Is it fair to say that the greatest fraud check of all time happened on Saturday when Andrew Tate lost to Chase Damore? He should have never taken this fight. If there was any sort of doubt about him winning, he should have never taken this fight. And now he's going online and he's doing the babyface thing of like, you have to live, and I'd rather try and fail. No, that's not who you are. Your persona has nothing to do with failure. Your persona is about winning. Your persona is about achieving wealth and success. Your persona is not about trying, and hey, if you don't succeed, you gave it the old college try. That is the antithesis of everything that you have spewed over the past 5 or so years. So miss me with the like, I'm proud of myself for trying, and I went in there against the champion who's really good. No, you didn't. You went in there and you looked awful and you failed. And so just be honest about it.
This wasn't just a bad night. It was a complete public collapse. For years, Andrew Tate sold one bold message loud and clear. He never folds, never breaks, never loses. No matter the pressure, he was supposed to be the unshakable one, the man who stands tall while everyone else falls apart. But that entire image shattered in one single night. And what caught everyone off guard? It wasn't even the opponent. When the final bell rang, the real shock was Tate himself. The blank stare, the drained energy, that eerie silence. Everything about it just felt off. Something deeper was brewing behind those empty eyes, and the night didn't end when the fight did. That's when things really started to spiral. Because this wasn't just some friendly match, no way. This fight was mandatory. Tate didn't step into that ring for fun or sport. This was about power, control, and clinging to an image that had been slipping through his fingers for a while. He wasn't fighting for a title. He was fighting to keep his legend alive. On paper, the setup looked perfect. A seasoned striker with years of training up against a reality TV figure with barely any ring time. Everyone expected a quick win, an easy finish, a loud victory to silence the doubters. It was supposed to be a walk in the park, but that's exactly why it mattered. Because a win would have changed everything. More fights, bigger names, hotter headlines, and a smooth comeback to the spotlight. But instead, something cracked that night. And the world saw it happen live. From the moment that first bell rang, something just felt off. His movement looked heavy, his timing was slow, and even his breathing seemed out of sync. By the third round, it was clear. He wasn't chasing victory anymore. He was just trying to survive. That so-called comeback everyone hyped up was slipping through his gloves right before our eyes. And unbelievably, that still wasn't the real collapse. Because the true unraveling came after the fight. It wasn't just the loss that stunned people. It was what Tate said next that cracked his whole image wide open. Losing was never in his playbook, so when it actually happened, there was no script left to follow. You could see it. The man was shaken, standing there trying to make sense of a moment he never thought he'd face. At first, he played it cool, trying to hold himself together. He gave the usual polite nods, praised his opponent, kept that steady voice like nothing was wrong. But the more he spoke, the more the cracks started to show, and everyone could hear them loud and clear. If you listen closely, the rhythm was off. Long pauses, awkward silences, sentences stretching like he was searching for the right words but coming up empty.
I want to get spiritual about all of this. You have to understand that there are forces larger than us people. And I said that the answer was already written. Why did I get tired? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that I was not supposed to win. Why was I not supposed to win? Is the world a better place now that I've lost? Maybe the win means more to Chase than it would have meant to me. Maybe Chase couldn't handle the loss. Maybe God decided, you know what, Chase has been through enough with mocking and things on the internet. Chase doesn't need the loss right now. Andrew can handle the loss better. Maybe God decided. Maybe if I won, we would have went out and celebrated that night, and Tristan would have smoked a bunch of cigars, and maybe he would have died 1 minute earlier. And maybe I get an extra minute with my brother because I lost. And if that's the case, then I'm glad I lost.
Then came the line that set the internet on fire. I got tired, not injured, not outclassed, just tired. That explanation didn't sit right with anyone. This is the same man who built an entire empire preaching discipline, stamina, and unbreakable toughness. Yet by round 3, he was completely drained, hands down, feet frozen, gasping for air. It was the kind of sight nobody ever expected to see from the man who claimed exhaustion was for the weak. The commentators didn't hold back, not even a little. They called it out straight, questioning his training, his focus, and even his level. Some flat out labeled it a reality check. In seconds, the story flipped. This wasn't a confident fighter just having an off night anymore. This was a man getting exposed under real pressure. The myth was cracking right there under the bright lights. But the real breaking point came after the final bell. Instead of owning up and saying, "I wasn't ready," he froze. And that hesitation, it was lethal. When your whole brand is built on iron confidence, the second you pause, the whole act starts falling apart. Because once the excuses start, there's no stopping that train. And what he said next even stunned his most loyal fans. That's when the shift began. Not in the ring, but inside his own head. Losing wasn't supposed to exist in his world. He had no playbook for defeat. On the surface, he kept it polite, said the respectful lines, looked calm, sounded composed, but underneath you could feel the cracks forming. The hesitations kept slipping through. The explanations started piling up. First it was ring rust, then age, then bad timing. Then the opponent leaned too much. You start to notice a pattern. He mentioned everything except the one thing that actually mattered, preparation. And that's wild, coming from the same man who spent years preaching accountability to millions. This is the same guy who mocked anyone who failed, the same voice that once said, "Losers always blame something else." But now, suddenly, it was everyone's fault but his own. The irony was impossible to ignore. He swore his training was flawless, said his body was in peak condition, and that everything went exactly to plan. But if that's true, then why was he completely drained by round 3? That contradiction just sat there, awkward and loud, with no real answer. And of course, the internet jumped on it instantly. Clips spread everywhere. Old quotes started resurfacing, and the contrast was brutal. This was the same man who once bragged, "What do you call someone who loses? A loser." But now he was out here explaining why losing didn't really matter.
To have faith in a higher power. There's a lesson in all of this. And I don't need to know exactly what it is. If God decides that for some reason he's going to instantly gas me when I was in perfect physical condition so that I lose, then I have to accept God's decision. And I'll take the punches in the face like a man. And I'm not going to bitch, I'm not going to complain, and I'm not going to cry. I'm going to take it. God decided on that day that that's what has to happen to me, so I did it. If you're going to go through life without understanding that there's a grander plan, a plan that's bigger than just you and your ego. The plan is bigger than just us and our egos, guys. The plan is bigger than just, I want to win. So I have to have what I want, like a spoiled child, and what God decides, and what's good for the universe, and what's good for people to learn from, and what's good for the general karmic retributions of the planet. Fuck all that. I want to win so that no one on the internet laughs at me.
Then he added a twist, saying people just have to have faith in a higher power. The crowd didn't know what to make of it. Was he serious or just scrambling for meaning? But he didn't stop there. Oh no, he took it even further. He didn't just explain the loss, he redefined it. That's when the story completely shifted gears. Suddenly, it wasn't about boxing anymore. It was about the cosmos, fate, divine plans, and the universe itself. He started talking about destiny, saying things happen not because you fail, but because the universe chooses that outcome. Let that sink in for a second. This is the same guy who built his entire empire preaching that discipline is everything, that hard work separates the winners from the weak. But now, discipline didn't matter anymore. Losing wasn't failure, it was sacrifice. People leaned in, watching closely, because this didn't sound like confidence or maturity. It sounded like a man trying to glue together the pieces of a shattered identity. The top G persona never spoke like this, not once. That version of him never showed weakness, never praised losing, never bowed down to defeat. But this time, his voice sounded different. He wasn't angry, he wasn't mocking anyone. He just sounded tired. And that's when fans started asking the one question that cuts straight through the image. If the universe decides who wins, then what happens to the man who always claimed he controls everything? Because once you hand that power away, you can't just grab it back. And right there, the biggest shift of all began. Money. He made sure to shout it loud for everyone to hear. He was still rich, still winning in life, and that this loss didn't matter. But listen closely, because that's where the contradiction hits you right in the face. For years, winning was everything. Dominance was the message, legacy was the flex, and now suddenly none of that mattered anymore. People started to catch on to the pattern. When he wins, it's superiority. When he loses, it's irrelevant. When he dominates, it's discipline. When he fails, it's fate. That's not confidence. That's coping, plain and simple. And that's when things really started to get messy. The criticism didn't just come from haters anymore. It started coming from his own supporters. The same die-hard fans who used to defend every word began asking serious questions. If the training was perfect, then why was his cardio gone so fast? If discipline controls everything, then why do the same rumors keep resurfacing? Once that untouchable shield started cracking, people began looking back with new eyes. Old stories got side-eyed, past claims started sounding suspicious, and even his old championships got re-examined. The empire he built on unbreakable confidence was suddenly looking shaky, and everyone could see the cracks spreading. The myth didn't explode overnight. It wobbled slowly and painfully, and once doubt creeps in, it spreads like wildfire. This wasn't just a rough night in the ring anymore. This was a credibility collapse. You could hear it in his voice afterward. No fire, no fury, no trademark bravado, just pure exhaustion. It wasn't a meltdown because he lost a fight. It was a meltdown because the character he built, the one that made him untouchable, suddenly couldn't protect him anymore. And that's the real twist. Because truthfully, this was never about boxing. It was always about identity. When everything you sell is built on being a winner, losing doesn't just sting, it exposes you. For years, Andrew Tate sold the idea of total control, the belief that effort always guarantees results. But this one moment, it shattered that illusion completely. Not because he got beaten, but because he couldn't explain the loss without rewriting the rules he built his entire image on. So here's the real question. Was this just one bad night? Or was this the exact moment the top G persona finally cracked for good? Whatever the answer is, the impact is undeniable, and people won't forget what they saw that night. If you want more deep dives like this, don't miss out. Subscribe to the T-Pulse for all the real talk, the breakdowns, and the stories everyone's whispering about. Hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned, because this story is far from over.